Good morning. My name is Patrick McCurdy, and this is the Power of Our Story. This is a place where like-minded individuals are building a tribe where we get together, that we talk about a lot of things, including recovery and mental health and post-traumatic growth. There's a huge variance in what we do, but there's commonality in the way that we think and act. This is a place where a lot of first responders and military and dispatchers and EMS and other types of nurses, other types of groups gather here. And we usually talk about different things. My name is Patrick McCurdy. If I didn't say that already, I think I did. And I'm a retired police officer myself, and I'm currently a public safety advocate for first responder wellness. The last time I was here, and it's been a little while, we started journaling. And there is a lot of value and there's a lot of research in the ability to use journaling as a tool for recovery from trauma, but also a tool for personal growth. Things like gratitude journals. There is undeniable evidence suggesting that it is a tool that can be used to help people through this journey that we go through in life. I know for me, it's been a big thing. So we began with the journal, excuse me, the last time we met. And I'll walk you through that. And if you didn't join us, you can pause the video. Excuse me. I'm sorry about that. You can pause the video and go look at that one. It's called Defining Your Values or something similar to that. You can take a look at that and then come back. Or I can tell you what we did and you can play catch up. What we did last time was we came up with a huge list of values that people might hold. Values include things like courage and freedom, humor, growth, learning, honor, and similar things. Some could be more lighthearted and some could be more serious. And what we did was everyone helped contribute to the list, and we talked about different values. And then everyone wrote down their top 10 values, which is a difficult process because it means that there are some you can't include. And it means that there are maybe some that you would include that you wouldn't otherwise. And then we went through a process of elimination. We eliminated 3 of those values, and then 2, and then 2 more until we came to a point where we only had 3 remaining top values. Now, values can definitely change in our life depending on our experiences, the trauma, the victories, the defeats that we may have. And our values can change, especially with negative events in our life. We can sometimes change our perception and our values of things. And sometimes things come up that weren't a value before. For example, if you or a loved one experience illness, one of your values might be healthy living where it wasn't before. And very often things like that will change a person's perception. As we talk about this, we're going to first give the opportunity for anybody who wants to share what they came up with their top 3 values. And for you that are just joining us, you can pause if you want to and go through that process. And in a moment, what we're going to do is create a mission statement using those values for us. One thing I didn't mention, I should mention, is everybody that participated last time had 2 columns on their paper. And the left side of the paper was for their personal values to help them define who they are. And then the right side was the values that they believe are important for this platform, the Power of Our Story. So this would be a good time if you want to pause and get caught up if you didn't do that. And for us, we're going to push forward. Is there anyone who wants to share what they came up with for their top 3 values? And with that, I also want to ask a second question. The second question is, on your list, as we eliminated values, what were some of the ones that were difficult to eliminate for you? Anybody want to go first? And by the way, this is a very personal thing. And so if you don't want to share what you came up with, that's fine as well. One of the things that we see in society around us, especially it seems very exaggerated recently, is some people have very skewed values like self above others or power, seeking power, money can be a value, things like that. And those can sometimes skew morality and other values. And so our intent here is to define some of those moral core issues. Michael, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll volunteer. And we're just doing our personal ones, right? Not the group ones. Okay.
Yeah, we could talk about the group if we have time afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. So for me, the ones I narrowed it down to were honor and integrity and courage / valor, which valor's like, taking courage on steroids, right? So those are the three that I settled on as my top 3 core values.
Cool. Do you have anything to add to that or why it resonates with you?
I think we had that conversation last time as we were narrowing it down to the top 3. I think with those 3 at the center, the other 7 that I crossed out fall under those 3 categories, or those three values encompass everything else.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Michelle, how about you?
So my top 3 were curiosity, authentic, and perseverance. And the only one that I really struggled with was not having empathy on there, because although it is important to me to have empathy, I tend to go overboard. So I have realized in my life, like, it doesn't need to be my top 3. It can be a little lower on the list.
Cool. And are you able to regulate that when you want to? Or is that a work in progress?
I'm a work in progress.
I would rather have a person who's more empathetic, perhaps like not your word, but even inappropriately so, than a person who isn't at all, who's numb or unfeeling. So I appreciate that about you. Janet, go ahead.
My 3 were supportive, honest, and growth.
And how does supportive come into play for you?
I think because I didn't always have support myself. And so it's important to me to be supportive of somebody else and their views and their stuff, and to try and see that other side. And through that is also being honest, but growing from that awareness of the other side, or the other side of the coin.
And you said a little bit about it. What about growth? Why is that a value for you?
For me, as long as I'm growing and learning in that, I'm moving forward. I'm not stopped. I'm not, that keeps, let's say, the depression away, the demons away, whatever you want to say. But because to keep growing, and when you're moving forward, you're meeting the people that come into your sphere that are like-minded like you, and less so. It's like weeds. If something grows up and the roots are strong, the weeds can't survive. So when you have a strong supportive growth and a group, and you can grow from that, then the negative stays at bay.
I like that. Did you struggle with getting rid of any of them?
Do you know what? I didn't see it as getting rid of any of them. I saw that as they'll always be there. But when we had to narrow it down, because I had Caring and Trailblazer and Legacy and stuff like that, and those are all happening anyways. But if I had to do the 3, that was the 3 I would do.
Well, and like Michael said, those 3 support those other things.
Yeah.
If you're supportive and growth-minded, open to growth, you can be a trailblazer and be caring towards others. So thank you. Paul, go ahead.
Sorry, I had to unmute. My mission statement for many years has been to develop loving relationships and be of service to others. And it's not limited to that, but I'm also going to share with you 10 things that I find are important values in my life. Those are faith, family, community, vocation, education, legacy, integrity, competence, gratitude, and health.
It's, to repeat Janet, that sounds like a formula for growth.
Well, and I share her view about when you stop learning, you stop growing. And so, yeah, I think that's very important. And if I died with a book in my hand, it would not surprise me.
Good. That's a good goal to have, to always be learning and growing.
Yeah.
Good. Is there anybody else who would like to share? I know we did some of this last time as well. Okay. Before we move forward, is there anybody who wants to share some values that they feel are important for the power of our story? Janet, go ahead.
Yeah, I got out of my list was courage, compassion, and trust. And I think they're all important. And I think that's what we have now. And I think everybody here has that same, they work on those values as well, whether they're in their top 3 or not.
I think if I was making that list, trust would be at the top, because even if you don't have courage, with trust here, people can glean or gain courage from the people around them and perhaps be encouraged. But I love that. I think trust is, and compassion, of course, is very important. I don't think you can have trust without compassion. Maybe, but in my world, you can't.
Well, and where I came with courage is the courage to share, to be there, and to make a statement, and to, let's face it, in support, sometimes we have to be a little harsher or ask questions that maybe not everybody asks. And I think that our society doesn't ask the right questions in some cases. And that takes courage to ask those, and compassion to hear the answer.
I agree. Thank you. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, I like all the ones that Janet said, and they're on my list, but the 3 I narrowed it down to were honor, love, and integrity. We kind of talked about that last time, doing everything out of love. And sometimes love is tough love, right? Saying the things that's hard for us to hear. But I think honor and integrity encompass that trust, and since that creates that space for everybody to be vulnerable and be able to open up and just know that it's safe to talk, in here, and to voice your opinion with no, without people being like, what the heck are you talking about? Right. You can freely speak and say what you need to say without fear of repercussion, I guess, to an extent. I mean, obviously for going way up, but you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that you're giving them a lot of sound bites if they ever do an ad for Power of Our Story, because those are the things that would draw a person who's looking for that, and being able to speak, maybe with some judgment, appropriately. Maybe people saying, hey, you're on the wrong track. Drinking that 5th of vodka isn't going to help you resolve it, that type of thing. But judgment done in love, like you said, and accountability, and courage, like Janet said. Paul, go ahead.
For the Power of Our Story, I think the words that come to mind for me are first safety, and then empathy, and authenticity. And I say that because we all know that we can detect when somebody's selling us something versus telling us something. And I think it's important, and Patrick, you know this probably better than anybody because you're in the midst of it all the time, but when you're doing a presentation, the light bulbs go on because it's very clear to people that you've been there and you're just not selling them something, you're telling them something. And I think those things are important. Compassion certainly is important. And I think that probably I'm torn between safety and authenticity, which is at the top of the list, but I suspect it's safety, because if people don't feel safe, not much is going to happen, and all the rest follows. So anyway.
I like that. I think that the safety and courage piece are important because I think they can feel safe with the group, and all those other words, the compassion, the empathy, the love come to mind. But I think that having the courage to maybe say something they wouldn't normally feel safe saying is important too. And I think it all works really well together. When we dump all this onto Sarah's lap and she does come up with a mission statement for the power of our story, she's going to have a lot of tough decisions to make about how that sounds, but we'll be there to help you. I don't see any other hands. So if you would like to add, please interrupt me. And I'm happy to do that. However, I think that this leads well into the next portion, which is writing our mission statement. And at this point, we're going to focus on our personal mission statement, not the mission statement for the group for the power of our story. It's interesting when you look up mission statement and what that is, it's very corporate minded. There are words like organization versus individual, actions, guidelines, decisions, strategies for the organization, communicating vision to stakeholders. It's not what we are trying to accomplish here. And I looked up quite a few, different definitions about mission statement. I think that your words embody at the core what we are trying to accomplish with our mission statement. This is our personal mission. So in a moment, we're going to pause this. And when we pause the recording, we're all still going to be here while you work on it. But for those of you watching, you're going to have some time to work on this on your own. What we're going to do now is in not much more than a paragraph, hopefully a little bit less than a paragraph, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines, we're going to use these values that we came up with, the top 3 values, and others like several people mentioned, Michael and Janet, others may be incorporated. But now I'd like you to challenge you to take a few minutes to write a personal mission statement about those values. Now, with a mission statement, for a personal mission statement, I always caution, and here it goes, because I just said always, but I caution you on the use of words like always and never, and things that give, because if, for example, Janet said the word courage, and it's been mentioned a few times, so did Michael. If we say, I will always proceed with courage into unknown circumstances, we may not be able to do that. Sometimes courage is being able to act despite the fear that you have. And so we can't guarantee that we're going to be able to do that. Now, to say, I will always try to remain courageous when facing unknown or frightening circumstances is totally different, but we've changed the word. It's not courage anymore, it's courageous. And so that's more of a mindset. And we may have to use our mission statement to remind us, okay, I remember my son, when he was in middle school, wanted to ask a cute girl out to the Valentine's Day dance. And he told me, I said, well, how'd it go, buddy? He said, I was walking past her. She's so pretty, Dad. I just said, 30 seconds of courage. And I turned around, did it. That's not a bad way to do some things, because it takes that little adrenaline surge to be able to do what we need to do sometimes. So we're going to avoid the words always and never. Michael's example of love. If we say, I'm always going to use love as the grounding principle for everything that I do, sometimes anger overrides love a little bit. And even if anger comes from a place of love, that's not the emotion or value we're feeling in that moment. And so it might be, if I'm not driven by love, I will remember to ground myself and act through love if I make a mistake, something like that. So before we start and hit pause, I see a hand up, and I was going to ask if there are any questions. Go ahead, Paul.
I think what you're expressing here is that mission statements should not include limiting things. They should be about intention. And always and never are always limiting. And that wasn't meant to be a pun, that was a fact. And so I think that if we view it as something that's positive and something that's intentional, we will frame it a little bit differently.
Very well said. Thank you.
Hey, Patrick.
Go ahead. Yes.
Patrick.
Jim, go ahead.
And this is Jim. I'm in my car, so I can't really kind of do much, but I just wanted to offer up a thought, because as you mentioned, the kind of the mission statement thing is sort of corporate type of thing or whatever. One you could do it for an organization. It's a purpose statement. What is your purpose in life? What is your purpose that you proceed with? You carry out every day type of a thing, and what values frame that purpose for you? Just a thought.
I agree. Now, I didn't hear everything you said, but I got the gist of it. Did other people have difficulty with his audio, or was it just my computer? Yeah. Okay. So just so you know, Jim, you're fading in and out, but to repeat in my own words and then tell me if I got it correctly, it's a statement of purpose that we use daily to guide us in our life and decisions. Is that about right?
Yeah. A purpose statement versus a mission statement.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. Mission statement is the term that we generally use, and I haven't heard the term purpose statement, but I do think it's a little bit more appropriate. We could also call it a statement of intention too, because it could be what guides our intentions, our thought process, and our decision making too. So with all of that, we're going to hit pause for just a moment, and I'm going to give you some time, as much time as you need, to start writing that. And then as you finish your piece, you can start raising your hands, and we will restart the recording for anybody who wants to share. And just so you know, if you don't want to share and you want to talk after the recording, we're going to, at some point, stop the recording altogether, and you'll have a chance to share at that point too, if it's more private. Okay, if you're joining us on The Power of Our Story on video, we took a few minutes to work on personal mission statements. And part of the discussion I had was, when we look up templates for this, I have yet to find a template that's actually helpful. I think I'm going to have to create one on my own, because most of them are too corporate. They're things like, what service does your company provide? And is your company a nonprofit? But what we're doing is if we're sent out on a mission, and in this circumstance, we all have at its core helping other people in different ways. How do you accomplish that mission using your values as grounding principles? Or how do you accomplish that purpose in life? So a few people have finished and they want to share, and I'm going to start in the order that I see them. And Paul, I see your hand up first. Would you like to share?
Certainly. I want to preface this by saying it's important to have a mission statement, but it's also important to understand what your calling is. And you know, the two do not necessarily intertwine, but they certainly accommodate each other. My mission statement is, and has been for a number of years, my purpose in life is to develop loving relationships and serve the needs of others as I am able to. My calling, on the other hand, is to find and recover runaway teens, sexually trafficked human beings, non-custodial parental abductees, and predators. And I do that without charge because it is my calling. And because I'm called to do that, and I will continue to do it as long as I'm called. Which is part of serve the needs of others as I'm able in my mission statement. I also sent you a note that have something that might be helpful to you or not, and I just sent it to you on the chat, so there's no hurry about it.
Okay. I have not received that yet, but I'm excited to see it when it comes up. Thank you, Paul. Next, I see Janet.
This is something that I've always struggled with. And so just to go forward with courage, I wrote something down anyway. So it sounds quirky to me, and takes me back to being in school and criticized for what I write. So here goes anyways. My personal mission is to be supportive and honest with myself and others as I continue to grow. To grow in wisdom in my service to others increases my ability to be compassionate during the journey forward.
Well, I have no criticism, Janet. I think that's beautiful. It incorporates everything that you're talking about, and it's something that is very relatable. And you could easily draw from that if you're struggling. If, for example, you're dealing with a person that you're having a hard time finding the compassion with, who's difficult, and if you list that, I think that's the intent here. So perhaps when you revisit it later, you might change some language or something. But I think that I wouldn't personally. I think it's very well done, and I think it's beautiful. So you could sell shirts with that on it and make a lot of money.
Maybe that's what I'll have to do.
Yeah. Sarah, I see your hand next. Sarah Marie, excuse me. Sarah Marie, I see your hand next.
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I'm out at a aquatic pool thing, so I wasn't sure if you guys could hear me. Which was partially why I didn't share my values when we were doing that in the first place, because I thought it was too loud. So I'll back up a little bit. So my values that I had down, and this is probably why I get along with so many in this group, my values were honesty, growth and learning, and connection. And so I too struggle with kind of the mission statement writing thing. I think because I'm more of just like a doer and like a hands-on. And so to really like encapsulate the complexity of what I think our interactions really are is hard for me to like narrow it down to just a statement. But what I ended up coming up with, and I found like a little like pyramid. I don't know if you guys can see that. Is it blurry? No, there we go. Anyways, the bottom is your values, the middle was the mission statement, and then the top was your vision, the vision, which I ended up moving down to the mission statement. Sorry, can you still hear me? It's almost gone, the airplane. Okay, so my mission statement is, I will continually work on growing myself as an individual by being honest with myself and others in order to create meaningful connections with myself and others. That's it.
Very cool. And we didn't hear the airplane. You did, but we didn't. I like that. How do you form a connection with yourself? Tell me what you mean by that.
So going back to like the growth and learning and honesty, I don't think you will know what you need to work on if you're not honest with yourself. So by being honest with yourself and really, you know, looking at you as an individual, allows you to know what things to work on in that growth. And by doing that, you are then, you know, so take my daughter, for example, she's wired a little differently. There's no parenting manual when you're pregnant with a kiddo, you know, that covers the issues that she has. You find out about it a lot later, right? So take our kids, for instance, as they grow, they each become individuals. And it's our job as parents to adjust our parenting style based on each child's, you know, needs and individuality. So there were a lot of things where I had to take a hard look at myself. One, some of the traumas of my own upbringing because of my mom and that interaction, and realizing, you know, that generational trauma, like I'm doing the same things that she did that were, you know, hurtful for me, and I need to change that. So I had to be honest with myself in that. And then I had to find the materials and the support in order to grow and change, so that now, like, we enjoy each other's times together when she's having a meltdown or, you know, an issue with her emotional regulation. Like, I'm able to be there for her and connect with her that on a level that helps her through her situation.
Cool. And that translates to a lot of different circumstances too. Cool. Michelle, would you like to share with us?
I wasn't going to at first because I was like, I've never done this before. And so I don't know, I probably did it wrong. But then hearing Janet and Sarah Marie say, you know, they were trying to work their way through, and I guess that gave me some courage. So my statement for now, and I feel like I struggled with this because this is almost me putting down on paper how I'm going to hold myself accountable for how I'm going to live my life now. And I haven't had to do that yet. So I will remain curious as I go through life, keeping an open mind to learn as much as I can. I will use my strength and perseverance to work my way through battles, big or small. I will remind myself to be as authentic as I can throughout life so I don't lose me again.
I like that. So I don't lose me again. But my challenge on that is, during our last conversation that we had during Timeless Principles of Leadership earlier this morning, one thing we talked about is how the new me is different than the old me before I experienced those things. And I completely lost the old me. But for that, I'm actually full of gratitude, because I wouldn't be capable of the depth of compassion and understanding that I am without my own traumas and dramas and experiences. And also, I feel I'm better prepared to deal with emergencies. You know, if I hadn't seen those things, I mean, this group here, I know if we were all sitting together at a cafe and something bad happened, I could trust everybody here would spring into action and move with me. And it's funny because we all have so many different roles that everybody would take a different role on, and it would work well. So I don't want to change that piece, but it wasn't easy to acquire because I had to go through the mud to get to the shore on the other side where I am now. So my challenge to you is trying to not lose yourself. Sometimes we lose ourselves, and what we find with the new self can be better. Sometimes worse, but sometimes better.
I would definitely agree with that. However, I would put another challenge to you in saying that sometimes losing yourself to find the new you is still a version of being authentic to yourself. So I think for me, it's whatever it means. I lost myself to my career. I lost myself to the addiction of solving people's problems. I can't do that again. Whatever the me is, I have to keep that. I can't lose it. And I know it's going to change.
I like that. And your family lost you for a while too, right?
Yes.
Yes. It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
One thing I didn't say as we were doing this that we discussed last time was I feel like in the last few years, with all of the crisis that we've experienced in the world, just as people living not only in America, but in the world, I feel our values were sometimes tested. And some of the people who had, in my opinion, the most difficult time were those who didn't have very clearly red line drawn barriers to folding on their values. And I think that the world is becoming more hardline about, if you don't agree with me, you're wrong, instead of we can disagree and talk about this like we used to be able to. So one of the reasons this is important is to kind of when we are in a moment of pause and a moment of calm, be able to realign those things and do it with people we trust, so that when we encounter some of those circumstances where we're backed up against the wall, we know that we're okay with that. We know, okay, I made a decision and a promise to myself, I'm going to do this. Michael, go ahead.
Yeah. On something that you were talking about, like, yeah, sometimes your old self and your new self aren't even it, right? They're not you. Because I've done that, right? Like, I was like, I don't like me, so I went complete 180 in the opposite direction, and guess what? That was too far the opposite direction, and I ended up settling somewhere in the middle, which that ties in with my mission statement. I kind of feel like I cheated because I did this in another group like 3 weeks ago. So I actually already had my mission statement written down, and I realized that though I didn't realize it, I had a mission statement for a while. So that ties into what I just said about the old self, new self, right? I realized it had to be something in the middle. One didn't necessarily have to win because I saw the good qualities in both, which ended up leading me to write a code of chivalry, which is my moral code that I live by. And so a lot of my mission statement comes out of that. So, and like you said, when you're clearly defined on like what your values are, and you have this is where I am, you're not going to be pulled. I mean, you're not going to be pulled off target to the left or to the right. But yeah, so with that said, my mission statement is to be a man of chivalry by living a life worthy of honor and respect, by demonstrating loyalty, honor, courtesy, nobility, and valor, being a light in the dark, and being a balance between ferocity and valiance, and meekness and mercy.
And was that veracity or ferocity?
Ferocity, ferocious.
Yeah.
Fear, fierce.
Yeah. Although you could substitute veracity, which is truthfulness as well, couldn't you, with that same mission statement?
Yeah. I mean, it's about being that balance, being polite and courteous, and putting, other people's needs, taking account for that in everyday life. But then there is a time when you have to call on that other side, right? As warriors, we understand that there is a time to take action, whether it's to protect yourself, your family, or somebody that's not able to protect themselves. And that's where that ferocity and valiance comes from. And not even just in a physical sense, but, standing up for your beliefs and what you hold true, and saying, no, like, that's wrong. So
I love it. I think that all of these work well together. If we were to put them one paragraph after another, it would read well about the statement of this group, frankly, because the people that make up this group kind of define the direction it goes. Not everybody had a chance to talk, and everybody may not want to. And again, this is a very personal thing, but is there anybody else who would like to comment on their mission statement? Okay. Well, what we're going to do, if you're joining us at home, I'm going to give a little trailer or a preview to what we're going to do next in the next time we meet. And I'm not sure when that is yet. But I'm going to show you two things. The first thing that I'm going to show you is something that came up and I accidentally came across. And hopefully you see a colorful, swirly thing that talks about getting stronger. Is that what you see? I like this. It says you don't get stronger by doing what you can. You get stronger by doing what you thought you couldn't. And this is from a group called Surviving Self Battles. And I think that's in part what we were talking about with valor and courage. Sometimes when even if we can't do it, even if we decide after trying something new that we can't, the fact that you tried gives you growth, and your brain actually changes during that process. The second thing I'm going to share is the next step in the process. And I want to make sure that if you're going to look this up, you should see SMART. Do you see that? Yes. If you look this up, it's interesting how this is morphed and changed, and there are softer versions available now. And nobody in this group is looking for the easy way out or the soft version. So when we're talking about smart, and credit here, I got this from the coachingtoolscompany.com. It's on the lower right-hand side. And this is one of the ones that I look up and I like, but there are hundreds of these. And a lot of them have cool graphics and visual. Some actually caught my attention more, but they had different words. So what we're going to do with our mission statement is we're going to set SMART goals the next time we meet. And we're going to talk about what goals do we need to put in place in order to be that person we want to, who embodies our mission statement. And here, I like these words because they're a little bit more hardline, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and time-bound. Some of them say timely. Some say, I don't remember. A has a lot of variation. Some of them are advisable or something like that. But we want things as action-oriented, driven, mission driven people. We want words like this that have a little bit more meaning that speaks to us. So that's where we're going to go with this. We're going to pause the recording. I hope that you can join us again on the power of our story and perhaps be here with us next time as we set these goals.